We're at Earth X, ready for our next guest, Luis Gilberto Murillo. He was an environmental minister in Colombia, his native country, as well as the Minister of Sustainability. He was the same person. And of course, also an ambassador to the United States, a diplomat, a politician, also, as I see, a mechanical engineer, somebody who studied environment in school. Who are you?
Well, and someone who was born in the middle of the forest, I would say the jungle, in the state of Chocó, which is in the Pacific coast, one of the most biodiverse area in Colombia. And Colombia is the second most biodiverse country in the world. So I was born there, 3,000 is our population, very small. And then I started studying hard, and I was able to go to university, finish mining engineering, master degree in that, and then went into doing environmental and development policy in my career. I was twice elected governor of Chocó, and our platform was the new environmental and cultural model for the development of Chocó, because in Chocó, 80% or more of the total population is indigenous communities and black communities, and they are like forest community, very related to the forest. And almost the same amount of territory is forest and is owned collectively by those communities. So I wanted to propose something at that time in 1987, and I did in my plan. Then also connected to peace. After that, I went to Bogota and working with a very known mayor of Bogota, Antanas Mocus, and Antanas was the one who bring into the debate in Colombia in 1995 all these issues of culture, citizenship, and the protection of the environment, but from the urban perspective. So we created this urban environmental unit, and I was in one of them. And after that, I was kidnapped by paramilitaries. I was forced to flee the country, and I started doing work on peace and development and humanitarian assistance with an organization called Lutheran World Relief for years. I went back to Colombia, back elected governor, and then, well, I wanted to work for peace.
Yes.
And environment and people inclusion. So I went to be them presidential advisor to Santos, working on peace, and then Minister of Environment. We did a lot with Santos in terms of environmental protection, creating the carbon market, regulation for the carbon tax. And then with Petro, I became ambassador to the United States, Minister of Foreign Affairs. So I left the position 2 months ago.
So what you need to explain to us, we're at Earth X, which is a place where we talk about how to save the planet and make life healthier. And you told us that you come from this place in Colombia, indeed, the country with second highest level of biodiversity. And you were even within that country in a very small place, a small town. And so you know the value of the environment. That's what That's what I think I should conclude. And here it is. You wanted to be a mining engineer. Why is that? That's destroying the earth.
Not necessarily, because at that time, my hope was that we can start in mining to restore the income of those communities. Because when I left, the mining activity that was, by the way, was a mining town, and that mine was owned by American company. So they start from kind of decline. So I said, well, I need to study mining to help to keep that company, but to do this in a different way. When I came back, the company was already in bankruptcy and no company anymore. So we started doing environmental work to see how these communities can have some income. So this is one of the points. And this conference is fantastic because EarthX, I have been participating in several. So I was in 2023, Trammel Crow invited me and also Rajan Singh, and was fantastic to meet all these people like working with the same vision and also the objective of protecting the planet. So I find very outstanding community, and I see that in this conference too. So we can share experiences, like some achievement challenges, and also work together. So what I at that time I saw the connection between inequality, poverty, and the protection of the environment, because we in Colombia have this contrast that you have these communities that in terms of income are very poor, but they're in the middle of this fantastic forest that is so rich.
Yeah.
So when I saw the opportunity of the carbon market and the carbon tax, I said this is a way to channel funding to those communities.
Yeah.
So that moved me really to see how we can bridge inequality, poverty, and protection on the environment. And in Colombia, and Jurriaan knows that very, very well, you have to include issues of peace and security.
Yes.
Because there is some correlation between peace, security, and deforestation in Colombia because of the conflict.
Now, when we talk about the challenges the planet faces, then often there seems to be, two parts of the story where the Western countries nowadays say, well, we need to reduce pollution and carbon emissions and all that. And then from the developing nations comes the response, but that's all great. You put first all that carbon in the air, in the atmosphere, and now you want to reduce it. But we want to first bring up the level of, of the quality of life in our countries. So, but you have looked at this, from Colombia's perspective, and it seems that you see a path that doesn't require Colombia to first make the same mistakes that polluted other places. So, how do you see that? What's your vision?
You know that there are some experiences in Colombia and some lessons learned of how to combine sustainable development that is really friendly with the environment, but that kind of model, and we have some pilot, as you were mentioned, Gaviotas and others, but what happened is that there is not enough funding and economic and fiscal space to support those projects. So there are some issues of environmental justice that need to be addressed from the global north and the global south. And we always are advocating for more transfer of funding to support these countries that are not the main emitters in the world and creating huge problems. They are not driving the demand that is not doing in a sustainable way. But while you're doing that, you also need to think about very practical solutions that are viable now. This morning, Tremel was saying that sometimes we are so focused for the politics of this on the next bottle, like, oh, this is climate change, or this is not a conservation, or this is a conservation and not climate change. So what we found in Colombia is that with that vision, we look for some policy instruments that will create some solution for the deficit of funding, but at the same time, some viable opportunities for protecting the environment. One, obviously, was related with the economy of conservation. How you can really channel some funding to those who are conserving the ecosystem and the environment, particularly those ecosystems that are very rich, like in Colombia. Second, how you can work on channeling funding to have a vibrant restoration and regeneration economy. Because, for example, in Colombia, we have a lot of, and you know that, a lot of areas and land that have been degraded. We need to restore that. So what we did, we said, well, we are going to create the carbon tax. Some people are against the carbon tax, but need to have a purpose. It's regulation. But at the same time, we combine that with the market tools that was the carbon market. Colombia in 2016, we created this market. I was Minister of Environment. And half of the carbon tax was addressed to channel financial support to those companies and communities that working together wanted to get some carbon credits. Now we have almost 1 million hectares just in the Pacific coast covered by that market. And we are looking, at least our people that are working on having more sophisticated, let's say, channel of attracting even more funding to those assets.
So what does that look like, these 1 million hectares? I mean, compared to what it was?
Oh, well, first, these communities, like in my small town, they never get that significant amount of funding to do their own projects and for their own basic needs.
So they plant their fruit trees, or?
They protect what they already have.
I see.
Yeah, because it's in this new methodology for certification of those carbon market, you have the impact on communities, you have also how you protect the biodiversity, and also the capacity of those forests to sequester, to retain the carbon in those forests.
Yeah.
So those are really forests that had not been touched.
I see.
So those communities have a system that they learn how to harvest the forest without cutting trees or destroying the biodiversity.
Because they get the income from the carbon credits.
Yeah, and also because that's their cultural model of interacting with nature.
Yes, I see. So you did very innovative things, like you were probably one of the very first as Minister of Environment worldwide to introduce a tax for plastic bags. Didn't you do that?
That's right. That's something that also we did. I was Minister of Environment when we introduced that. That have very important impact on Colombia. Let's say this: Colombia was using around 800, 900 million of plastic bags a year, and we decreased that just to 200 million, and it's decreasing at the time I was there. So the impact was significant. And now you see, if you go to Bogota or Medellin, you see that most of the families and households are using their reusable bags. And now people are already conscious of doing it. At the beginning, I had this anecdote. I was to the houses of my friends and others said, you were the one, particularly those who were going to the market, to the grocery store, said, you were the one that introduced the tax on the plastic bags, and they were a little bit mad.
Yeah.
But now they understood that was something helpful. I said, well, that bag that you are using here then is going all the way for the rivers to the sea, and they are killing our species. So we need to do something on that. And Colombia really is moving fast in that regard. We introduced the tax, but now there is a law that prohibited the use of plastic in certain areas.
So you're not at the end of your political mission, but you see a clear opportunity to bring together environment, injustice, and economic progress as one message.
I see that because what happened is that when you put too much ideology and politics on solutions, that solution sometimes is not the best one available. So a combination of these tools, at least for the transition time, is very important. Mm-hmm. Very important to make those solutions viable. And this flows from the connection of poverty, the connection of inequality, the connection of protecting biodiversity, the need for natural-based climate solutions or natural climate solutions. And something that is important, and today that the Pope Francis, and we know, passed away, he was a great leader that suggested, and he had this Laudato Si encyclica that was very clear in terms of that you need to see that connection to save our casa común and common house. And I think that that's very relevant. And you have to be very open to different tools to be implemented for concrete solutions.
How important is leadership for change?
It's very important, and leaders need to be sometimes stubborn. Like, it's like, I remember in 1997, in my first campaign for governor, I talk about the environmental bonds. What certificate, but I gave another name. And we have the Cairo Protocol that didn't create space for that kind of tools. And we continue insisting. And we were able to implement that tool just in 2016. So you have to persist, insist, and inspire people, for people not to lose their hope that we can really have the best planet possible for us, for our children, for our grandchildren.
Where does your inspiration come from?
Well, I saw, well, I grew up in the middle of the jungle and the forest, and I really love and I adore my territory, as we say in Colombia. And also my inspiration came from those communities that they were so hopeful on one day having some kind of income that is related to what they have. And they, despite the difficulties, the conflict, poverty, the lack of basic services, they continue believing that those people over there in Bogota or in Dallas or in Washington will find a solution for their problems. And we cannot let those people down.
What is your, what is the goal? What do you want to achieve?
Well, really, I value peace, that people can live quietly without, like, exercise their freedom to prosper. And to do that, you need to provide people opportunities, and that need to work on equity, that need to work on cultural aspect of this, and to really talk each other. Like we are talking, it's like when you dialogue and you have conversation and you listen, and you also want to be listened, that people listen to you, that really create like a better world. That this is really my goal, because I had the opportunity to work on issues of peace on the Philippines in the past, Mindanao, which is very rich, beautiful, and the government and the Moros in Mindanao, Muslim and Catholic, and they were able to have some kind of peace agreement, not perfect, but they moved forward. I was a Lutheran already. I saw the negotiation between the Indonesian government and the rebels in Banda Aceh, and particularly when the tsunami struck that country, they realized that fighting each other was secondary, and they reached peace. I think that we need to realize that all these wars and not what is happening is secondary, because if we continue the way we're going, we will lose our planet. But I have hopes, because I have seen projects that really shown the way. We need to mainstream those good examples with leaders and events like this one.
Are you hopeful?
Yeah, I am. I'm by nature very optimistic, because sometimes you don't see like like the light, and it's like you see problems everywhere, and then something happened, and the humanity reinvent itself like for the better. Well, that's
Is there one, maybe in closing, one story you want to share of what gives you hope? What you have achieved? You say that's a good example.
well, something that really moved me when I see how we have moved in terms of Colombia is that in Colombia we were able to sign a very difficult peace agreement between the rebels of FARC and the government, and I was part of that. And then that allowed people to know that that's possible. And Colombia really changed, despite all the problems, for the better, because that allowed the Colombian democracy to strengthen, because many people like me had the opportunity to be at the government, that we didn't have that before. And when that happened, people were thinking about other needs that they have. It was not peace at that moment, and they said, we need to have opportunity to prosper. And that showed that countries really can progress and move forward. And the story of Colombia is the one that moved me, because I think that showed that things, well, that change and for the better is really something that is necessary, making the difference. And what moved me is when I connect to my people, when I am in conversations in the Pacific Coast, in Chocó, Buenaventura, or in the Caribbean, for that matter, or in the Andean region. When you go to the high mountain ecosystem Páramos, and you talk to these people that are in the Páramos, and they believe that they can live better in those Páramos, so high in the mountain, you say, man, I cannot afford not to be optimistic, because they are.
Thank you, Luis.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you for
Jurriaan.
your leadership.
Thank you.